The early morning sun pierced through the canopy, casting fragmented light onto the tranquil gathering under the Bodhi tree. The Buddha, seated serenely, looked at his disciples, their eyes full of questions and their hearts seeking solace. He spoke in a voice steady and calm, each word resonating with timeless wisdom and compassion. Once, long before this moment, I too was bound by the illusions of the world, the Buddha began. I was a prince surrounded by luxury, a life of comfort shielding me from the truths of existence. The disciples leaned forward, captivated by his gentle yet piercing words that seemed to unravel the fabric of their own doubts. My father sought to protect me from suffering, enclosing me within the palace walls, the Buddha continued. Yet, the realities of life cannot be obscured forever, no matter how thick the veils of illusion. He paused, his eyes reflecting both the weight of his experiences and the lightness of his liberation. One day, I ventured outside the palace, and my eyes were opened to the truths of existence, he said. I saw an old man, his body frail, his movements slow, time written upon his face. He paused again, as if allowing the image to settle in their minds, an indelible mark upon their understanding. Observe the river, the Buddha instructed, his voice as soothing as the breeze. It flows, never questioning its course. Your mind is not their permanent dwelling place. His words encouraged others to look inward and examine their fleeting, unkind thoughts. The river surrenders to the rocks, embracing its journey without resistance, the Buddha continued. Why must you fight the storm's power? The farmer's shoulders slumped, his thoughts burdened with unanswered questions. Learn from this tree. Ground yourself in awareness, let your thoughts move without being trapped. Finally, I saw a lifeless body being carried, its vitality gone, and grief emanating from those who accompanied it. The Buddha's voice became soft, almost a whisper, as if sharing an eternal secret. The farmer wiped his brow, contemplating the wisdom embedded in the simplicity of nature. Master, how do I cease feeling lost when my life feels fragmented? He queried. Buddha's serenity calmed the disciples, allowing their hearts to soften and their minds to observe more keenly. Suffering, Buddha said, emerges when you grasp your thoughts too tightly, refusing their natural ebb and flow. His words seemed to part a veil, revealing truth hidden deep within the disciples. Ananda felt his breath slow, his thoughts transforming into a gentle stream. But impermanence brings sorrow. Master, the farmer argued, his voice wavering. The lotus blooms despite its petals falling, the Buddha replied, his gaze unwavering. He paused, allowing the silence to emphasize his words. I left the palace, casting aside the wealth and comforts that once defined my identity, seeking the root of suffering. The disciples listened intently, their hearts resonating with the courage and resolve of his story. I wandered the forests, subjecting myself to severe austerities, believing that denial of the body would lead to freedom of the soul. The Buddha's voice carried both the pain of that struggle and the wisdom gained from it. Yet, I realized that such extremes are no path to liberation, for they are but another form of bondage. His tone shifted, embodying the clarity that emerged from his trials. Through deep meditation, I discovered the middle way, a path of balance that neither indulges nor denies, but embraces all with equanimity. He gestured gently toward the tree under which they sat, the leaves rustling softly in agreement with his words. Under this very Bodhi tree, I sat in meditation, determined to penetrate the truths of existence and liberate myself from ignorance. The Buddha's voice grew steadier, as if infused with the resolve that had led him to awakening. The night was long, the temptations of Mara fierce, but the light of understanding pierced through the darkness. He looked at each disciple in turn, his gaze a mirror reflecting their own potential for awakening. I saw the cause of suffering, the craving and aversion that binds us to the cycle of birth and death. His words carried the weight of his realization, yet offered a lightness that beckoned them toward liberation. I also saw the path that leads beyond it, the Noble Eightfold Path, a guide to living in harmony and truth. The disciples absorbed his words, their hearts kindling with the possibility of following in his footsteps. It is this path that I now share with you, that you too may find freedom from the chains of suffering. The Buddha's voice softened, yet his words carried a depth that reverberated through their souls. Begin with mindfulness, observing your breath, for it is the bridge between the body and the mind, the present and the eternal. He paused, as if to let his instruction settle like seeds into fertile soil. Waiting for the rains of practice, let your breath anchor you, guiding you through the storm of thoughts and emotions, toward the stillness that lies beyond. The disciples remained silent, the profound simplicity of the teaching echoing within them, filling the space with an unspoken understanding. Remember, liberation is not a distant goal but a realization of what already exists within you, the Buddha concluded. It is here, in this very moment, waiting for you to awaken to its presence and truth. The assembly bowed deeply, their hearts ignited with the flame of understanding and the courage to embark on the path. The Buddha remained seated, his presence a beacon of clarity and compassion. As the disciples slowly dispersed, carrying his words within them like a hidden treasure, the day unfolded, the sun rising higher, yet the teachings under the Bodhi tree continued to resonate, timeless and eternal. Do you understand now? He inquired. The disciples nodded, their collective acknowledgement reflecting their shared enlightenment. The Buddha sat calmly, his presence filling the space with a profound stillness and quiet strength. Today, let us speak of compassion, the force that binds us to each other and frees us from hatred. The Buddha began. Once, in a distant land, there lived a bandit named Angulimala, feared for his brutality and violence. The disciples listened intently, their thoughts stirred by the mention of such a fearsome figure. Angulimala roamed the forests, his actions sowing terror among all who crossed his path. The Buddha continued. His name became synonymous with fear, his deeds leaving communities fractured and grieving. He paused, allowing the gravity of this introduction to sink deep into the hearts of those gathered. He wore a necklace made of fingers, a grotesque symbol of the lives he had taken. The Buddha said. Angulimala's world was steeped in darkness, his heart hardened by the weight of his actions and choices. The disciples exchanged glances, their faces betraying the mixture of horror and curiosity evoked by the story. I walked through the forest where Angulimala dwelled, undeterred by the warnings of those who feared for my safety, he said. As I approached, he emerged from the shadows, his gaze cold and his blade poised to strike. The Buddha's tone softened, yet carried the power of his resolve and unyielding compassion. He demanded I stop. Yet I stood still, my presence unwavering in the face of his threats. The Buddha said. I looked into his eyes and spoke. I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who must now stop. The disciples leaned forward, captivated by the paradoxical strength and gentleness of his words. My stillness caught him off guard, his blade hesitating in the air, his mind grappling with the meaning of my words. He said. I spoke to him of his path, the suffering it brought to others and himself, the cycles it perpetuated. The Buddha's gaze turned inward, as though reliving the moment his words touched the bandit's heart. Angulimala was shaken, his hardened exterior beginning to crack, his reflection mirrored in the stillness before him. He said. He lowered his weapon, his heart opening to the possibility of transformation and liberation from his burdens. The assembly sat in silence, the power of the story filling the space with a palpable resonance. He abandoned his ways, renouncing the violence and hatred that had consumed his life and joining the Sangha, the Buddha said. His journey to redemption became a testament to the power of compassion and its ability to heal even the deepest wounds. He paused, allowing the weight of this transformation to permeate the minds of those gathered. Compassion is not a passive feeling. It is a force that breaks chains and builds bridges, the Buddha continued. It is the strength to face hatred and respond with love, to confront ignorance and illuminate it with understanding. The disciples nodded, their expressions reflecting the stirrings of realization and commitment. Practice metta, loving kindness. As the ascetic practices mindfulness, let your heart wish peace and happiness for all beings, he said. Begin with yourself, for self-compassion is the foundation from which love for others grows and flourishes. The Buddha's voice carried a warmth that soothed and inspired, each word a step toward liberation. Extend this loving kindness to those you cherish, imagining their faces lit with happiness, their lives free from suffering, he said. Do not stop there. Extend it further to strangers, their paths crossing yours in fleeting moments and shared humanity. He paused, his words flowing with the rhythm of life itself, gentle yet unstoppable. Finally, extend loving kindness to those who challenge you, whose actions awaken anger and hurt within your heart, the Buddha said. They too are caught in the cycles of suffering, their ignorance binding them as surely as it binds us all. His gaze softened, the compassion in his eyes reflecting the truth of his teachings. Compassion does not ask us to condone actions that harm but calls us to recognize the suffering behind them, he said. It invites us to meet that suffering with understanding, not judgment, and offer freedom to ourselves and others. The disciples bowed their heads, the profound depth of his words illuminating their minds. Remember, the path of compassion is not always easy, for it requires courage to face the darkness and bring light, the Buddha said. It calls us to see ourselves in others, to dissolve the barriers that divide and remember our shared humanity. He paused, the rustling leaves carrying his words beyond the confines of the gathering. Angulimala's transformation was born not of punishment but of the compassion that created space for change and healing, he said. Let this story remind you of the strength within your own hearts to bring peace to those around you. The disciples remained silent, the story of Angulimala echoing within them, a beacon of possibility and hope. The Buddha's gaze swept across the assembly, his presence a reminder of the truths he embodied and shared. Begin today, with each breath, each thought, each step, to cultivate compassion and let it guide your path. The disciples bowed deeply, their resolve to practice the teachings shining like the morning sun. Another day began to unfold, its moments fleeting yet filled with the promise of transformation and understanding. Under the Bodhi tree, the wisdom of compassion remained, a timeless force that continued to ripple through the hearts of all who heard it. Another day, another moment beneath the sheltering branches of the Bodhi tree. The disciples gathered with eager and open hearts. The sky was clear, its vast expanse a metaphor for the teachings the Buddha was about to impart. The Buddha sat in his usual posture, still as a mountain, his presence grounding the assembly. Today, we shall reflect on the nature of liberation, the truth that dissolves suffering and unveils your boundless essence, he began. Once, while wandering through a village, I encountered a man consumed by despair, his mind trapped in cycles of craving. The disciples leaned forward, sensing the profound lesson embedded in this encounter. Rahula, why does your heart weigh so heavily today, as though carrying stones across a vast desert? Buddha asked softly. Rahula bowed and spoke. Master, no matter how I release my thoughts, they return, trapping me in their endless cycle. The merchant touched the bark, his senses heightened by the tree's strength and resilience. Disciples mirrored his gesture, their connection deepened by shared humanity. The Buddha pointed to a bird gliding effortlessly through the sky. Desire burdens your wings. Letting go grants you the freedom to soar, he concluded. Disciples watched the bird, its movements a metaphor for liberation. The merchant smiled faintly, his soul lightened by renewed perspective. Observe your thoughts as they arise and subside, without clinging to them or pushing them away, he instructed. The disciples closed their eyes, attempting to follow his teaching, their breaths slowing into steady rhythms. The Buddha's instruction carried the simplicity and power of a method tested and proven through his own awakening. Through this practice, he began to see that his desires were not solid, but fleeting waves within the vast ocean of his mind. The disciples nodded, their expressions reflecting both understanding and the challenge of putting such wisdom into practice. He learned to rest in the stillness beneath the waves, the unchanging presence that neither craves nor resists. Master, she said, her voice frail, I have lost my family and wander without direction. My heart is weighed by grief. The Buddha regarded her with deep compassion, his gaze steady like the roots of an ancient tree. Even in loss, you hold the power to bring light, he said. The Buddha's words resonated deeply, echoing the possibility of liberation within the hearts of all who listened. He discovered that peace arises not from acquiring but from surrendering, not from striving but from being. The assembly remained still, the story drawing them into the vast landscape of their own inner struggles and the liberation that awaited. I said to him, true freedom lies in knowing that you are not bound by the objects of your desire or aversion. The young woman nodded hesitantly, her eyes flickering with faint understanding. The disciples leaned closer, drawn to the unfolding lesson. The Buddha's voice softened, yet it carried the strength of a truth that transcends time and circumstance. A truth unshakable and eternal, like the lotus rising above the murky water. You too can transcend the conditions of the world. The disciples bowed their heads, their hearts swelling with gratitude for the wisdom offered, their determination to practice renewed. Meditate each day, observing your thoughts as they arise and fall, as clouds drifting across the vast sky of awareness. The Buddha's instruction was simple yet profound, a guide to realizing the nature of the mind and the liberation within. Remember, you are not the passing clouds, but the sky itself, vast, unchanging, and free, the Buddha concluded. Liberation is not somewhere far, but here, in this moment, waiting for you to see it clearly. The gathering remained silent, the truth of the teaching settling deeply within their minds. A seed planted in the soil of practice. Another day unfolded, the sun rising higher in the sky, its light a reminder of the eternal truths shared under the Bodhi tree. The disciples dispersed slowly, their steps purposeful and their breaths steady, carrying the teachings within them, an ever-present guide on the path to liberation. The stars remain ever radiant, even when clouds obscure them. Your essence, too, is untouched by fleeting thoughts, Buddha said. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.